I'm just wondering, and I hate this notion that people say he doesn't know what his best 11 is. But I'm wondering, if everybody were fit, what does Cholo want to do with his front men? Because on paper, you would think in terms of reputation, it's Suarez and Griezmann. But then you have João Felix in the mix. And then you have Correa, who pops up with important goals. Recently when Suarez was out and he actually played 3 strikers, and I thought that actually worked relatively well. I'm forgetting the game. It was a couple rounds ago.
Betis, I think. But played very well against Betis.
Can you address this a little bit? I mean, is it... And also, where does Lemar fit?
Yeah, he's played well at times.
I thought it was incredible that Lemar was left out the starting 11 last night, because he's been their most outstanding player probably this season. Him and Rodrigo de Paul with a midfield 3. I think Simeone is genuinely. I don't think he knows exactly how to put all these pieces in together, how to fit them all. He has tried Griezmann in a variety of different positions, off the left, actually in a left midfield role, off the forward, at the top of the forward line as well. I think. I'll give you, for example, when Simeone was trying to encourage Griezmann to come in the summer, one of the things he said to him was, "Look, with a forward line of you, João Felix, and Luis Suarez, this is a really good team. This is a team that can do something special." And yet, I don't think he truly believes in João Felix, and I think he's nervous about Suarez physically, because we know that Suarez can't go long for you. We know that you can't plan a break. And Simeone also said something which I thought was surprisingly blunt and surprisingly honest in the pre-match press conference before this game. He was asked whether he preferred Suarez or Cunha up front. And the normal thing there is to fudge it a bit. So, both great players, different qualities. He said, well, it depends who you're playing with them. If you're playing, I can't remember which way around it was. I think he said, if you're playing Correa and Carrasco, then maybe Suarez. If you're playing De Paul and Lemar, then Cunha. And yet, of course, yesterday he played Carrasco and Correa, and he didn't start Suarez because Suarez has come from an injury, but he also had De Paul in there. And I genuinely think he's looking at this at the moment thinking, how do I put all these pieces together? And there is a difficulty which is beyond football, and that is, of course, the status of these players. And you've got Luis Suarez, who carried you to, not carried you, to be unfair, but took you to a league title last year, scored 21 goals, was decisive all season long. And now, in truth, you look at him, you probably have really significant doubts because he's physically not as quick, because maybe last year was a one-off, kind of partly powered by rejection at Barcelona. Can that really happen again? Personally, I don't think it can. You've also got another issue, which is you bring in Rodrigo de Paul, which basically means you don't have Marcos Llorente in the position in which he was the best player in Spain last year, or one of the best 2 or 3 in Spain at least. The only person, I think, apart from Messi, to be in double figures for goals and assists. And now you've got de Paul in there. So what do? Well, you go, tell you what, I'll put him at right wing back. So then you lose Trippier. Now, I'm not claiming that Trippier is the key to everything, much as I'd love to do the English thing and say it's all about Trippier. But actually, that little combination between Trippier and Llorente was really important last year. So some of the mechanics that made it all work last year simply aren't there yet, which isn't to say they can't be replaced by other ones, but there hasn't been a continuity yet. I also think there's been a slight attitude issue. And I think there's a lack of a sense of cause, there's a lack of, if you like, a kind of, what would you call it? I suppose a drive born of a determination to, I don't know, to defeat the odds, whatever you want to call it, that maybe isn't there once you've won the league.
Let's not forget they were lucky against Porto to even make it to the last 16 of the Champions League.
Oh, no question.
There's a really important point to make about Porto, by the way, and I'm glad you brought it up because I'd forgotten about it and you've reminded me. After the Porto game, all of the Atletico players were saying things like, we'd like to suffer a little bit less, but we got through. So we're really pleased, but we would quite like to not find it quite so difficult. And yet, that game was embraced as an idea of this is what Atletico Madrid have to go back to being. Tough, aggressive, nasty, cheaty at times if needs be. That sort of all those hallmarks, which I actually think, by the way, are exaggerated or in a bit of a cliche. But anyway, all those hallmarks of Simeone's side. And Correa even said after the game, this is how we have to play from now on. And to be honest with you, I think that's a really big mistake. Yes, maybe you have to have that spirit. Yes, maybe you have to have that touch of nastiness, that competitiveness, and that collective identity, because Simeone said very interestingly, I thought, this is a team that's really good when it's a team, and everyone goes in the same direction. I think that hinted at the fact that up until now he felt they hadn't. But in all honesty, if you think the way to be a really good team is to play the way you did against Porto, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Because they didn't play well against Porto.
No.
They really didn't.
And also, I think there's a problem in first halves. I've told you that before. I think in the last 3 home games, they didn't have a shot on target in the first half. and then second half they started playing, and it was exactly the same. I don't understand. You're watching them, it's like, okay, when do you start playing? There's the free kick from Griezmann yesterday, and that's it. And then second half, he makes a few changes. I think Joao Felix is such an incredible talent, but it's only when he wants to. And to be fair, he doesn't play much. But the ball for Cunha at the start of the second half, I think is just amazing.
I thought that would get you excited.
Yeah, but then they only start playing in the second half, and then they create chances, but nothing in the first half. And I'm like, why does it take them so long all the time? Porto was very similar, to be fair. Why does it take them so long all the time to get into matches, especially in big games?
I think there's no question Atleti were unlucky with a Champions League draw, but they were lucky with the way a lot of these games have panned out. I'm thinking also of the first leg against Milan as well, where we could end up having a completely different conversation.
Yeah,
Sid, I'm going to leave you with an uncomfortable question, which you can hide behind a no comment here. When I look at Atletico Madrid's signings, you mentioned Rodrigo de Paul. When he was at Udinese, he played in a certain position, which was much more. He had a lot of freedom to go forward all the time. Obviously, he's playing in midfield, and I'm sure he's multifaceted. He can do different things. Here, especially in those games when it's him and Coquet sitting in front of the back four, this is not what he does. Not what earned him the move. Even though I understand he's been playing well because he's a good player. I look at the Joao Felix move. I look at the Mateus Cunha move. Atletico Madrid, I look even going back to Lemar. Where did he come from? Monaco. Yeah. I look at the people who did all those deals, the intermediaries, and it's all the same freaking people. And I'm wondering, does Atletico Madrid belong in the Valencia bucket from a few years ago, and anybody in the Monaco bucket? And people who understand will know what I'm talking about.
Well, I like the fact that you're being very direct and very coy at the same time.
Of course.
Our lawyers are watching.
But the short answer is in terms of the relationship at the top of the club, absolutely yes.
All right. That about settles it. I wonder.
Be careful though.
I wonder what Simeone would do if he had a club that was slightly different. I know he's paid a lot of money to be there. Yeah. He's given a lot of control over the actual team, and he's a god there. But I'm just wondering if this club were run maybe along slightly different parameters, what they could achieve and where they could be. And you can
argue that this squad hasn't been built the way it should have been built. There's still a lot of unbalance in players, what they need, what they went for when they didn't really need them, etc.
Wow. I think in fairness, we probably should point out that we have it easy. In the sense that we look at it after the event and say, oh look, here's the flaws in this squad. In the summer, most of us, and I do include myself, looked at this squad and thought, wow, that's really, really strong. It's got balance now. It's got a bit of everything. It really is well constructed. Because, and again, I can't claim to have seen enough of Rodrigo de Paul in Italy, but I think he's played very, very well this year. In fact, he's been outstanding. And you look at him, and there's no doubt that you think he's a good signing this year. Joao Felix is a curious one. It does sometimes feel like he's the right player in the wrong club in terms of whether Simeone wants a player of that nature. But actually, he's not blameless himself, Joao Felix. There's no doubt that Joao Felix is partly to blame for, if you like, what would you call it, kind of the disconnect between his talent and his productivity. But yeah, there are elements of this that haven't always been brilliantly handled.
Sid, thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.